honest, sometimes I be feeling like if I could just have some consistent. Are we rolling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll talk about that off camera. Hey everybody, this is Jessica of Not Carrie Bradshaw. So I have my first guest for the NCB chat series, the model Malia. She let me wear some of her awesome jewelry for a shoot today, so I feel very fancy and brown and magical. Aren't we all? So Malia, tell us who you are, tell us what you do and why.
Hi guys, I am Malia. I am a model, host, jewelry designer, also a stylist, and I try to do a little bit of everything. And it all kind of falls into this creative bubble that I've created under the umbrella Made by Malia, which is my jewelry line, but it will become a lifestyle brand.
Okay, cool. So how did we get started? Like what led you to this path of creativity?
Well, it started, I knew I wanted to study fashion very young. Didn't know that it was a career that you could actually study, but knew that I enjoyed doing it. I always, recreated outfits for my Barbie dolls. I would cut their hair, so it wasn't just like making an outfit.
I'm sorry, you cut your Barbie's hair?
Yep.
See, that's not something I ever would have done, because being from the South, it's like your hair is your crown and glory. And look at me now. Go ahead, though.
Yes, but no, I wanted to give a completely different look, like transform them. So I would make a really long gown out of like a cut up t-shirt. My sister would quilt, knit some hats and some dresses for them, and I would cut their hair, put eyeshadow on them, pierce their ears. Like I really went all out, and then I would have a runway show for them. So it was at that young age, me creating a new look for someone, so styling essentially. So once I went to college, I studied fashion merchandising. Thought I totally wanted to be a celebrity stylist. I styled Nicki Minaj for a shoot as an assistant stylist at a magazine I was working with at the time.
I'm sorry, I just died inside.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
She's my best friend in my mind.
No, she would be your best friend in person. A lot of people have said certain things about Nicki. I really think that she's a boss babe, and she really knows what she wants, and I enjoyed working with her. I love seeing her like own the shoot, so that was really great to see very early on in my
Oh my god, were you the pickle juice?
No.
Wait, do you remember the pickle juice interview? I was about to say that was you.
No.
Okay, never mind. We'll chat about the pickle juice later.
But no, so it was really great to be in that environment very early on in my career. So then I went to work for a few fashion brands as a buyer. Buying was not my thing, but I stayed in it for several years. And throughout that process of not enjoying that arena, I designed my first item, my first jewelry piece. Didn't have a name for it at the time, sold it on Etsy. From there, people really gravitated towards it on my Etsy platform. I started my own website, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. So it's been a great progression. I'm still able to be creative and be in fashion, but have my own thing as well.
That's amazing. It's like, I feel like we all got this out of nowhere entrepreneurship bug. And I know you've seen the Instagram post where it says that, Black women are like the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs. But as of late, everyone's a little bit afraid now because of the election. We all kind of have this post-election anxiety. So talk to us about how you, as a woman of color, an influencer, an entrepreneur, how did you take in everything?
That's a great question. I feel post-election, my feelings were somewhat, weary, just like anyone else, because the way that people buy is affected by what's going on around them.
Right.
So as an entrepreneur, I'm worried if people start losing their jobs or start feeling unsure about the market, then they're not as willing to spend on, jewelry or items that I offer. But then I also felt the sense of empowerment because as a female, as a Black entrepreneur, I felt like this is my time to have ownership of something that someone cannot take away. So I feel like there was a sense of empowerment because, if you're employed and you're under the Trump, or those who don't speak,
that guy.
We're gonna edit that name out. We're gonna edit that out. But if you're under that fear or, what's happening, what's going on in our economy, and you don't have this sense of like, okay, I can do something on my own. Like for instance, if my jewelry company fails tomorrow, which it won't, but if it failed tomorrow, I have already started something that I know I can start from the ground up. So I can just start something else up. I can go into styling and have that be my forefront. So I think regardless of if you're an entrepreneur, you should always have something that you own, something that if you are an accountant, you have a side hustle, helping people with their taxes during tax season, so that you don't have this fear of someone taking something.
Okay, I think that's refreshing to hear. I know for me, just like the feeling of, is malaise the word that I want to use? Like, it felt like the city of New York died in this very small way. Like everyone was collectively confused and disappointed. But for me, I felt disappointed, but then on the other side, I also felt really empowered, because I'm like, if this person who has no knowledge of anything can achieve what is arguably like the highest position in the land, what does that mean for me? What does that mean that I can do? So when President Obama was giving his farewell address, and he basically did this call to arms that was like, the most important job we all have is to be an active citizen. And from that, I was like, okay, I have been much more apathetic than I realized. I started like watching CNN and getting overwhelmed and a little bit sad, and I was just like, there's so much I don't know. So for us, from where we're sitting as women of color, entrepreneurs, influencers, fashion media, what do you think our contribution could or should be to be active citizens, to take up that call to arms?
That is a wonderful question. I think there are two parts to this, right? So Michelle Obama represented what so many of us aspire to.
Oh God, yeah.
So I feel like as young women of color, entrepreneurs, fashion influencers, all of that, part of our responsibility is to just be representation. Mm-hmm. So into the spaces that we occupy, into the spaces that we walk, we are a walking representation of a greater community. Mm-hmm. So that I feel like that's my first responsibility. How I feel I contribute. So one of the things I do, I work with young women affected by homelessness a lot. And a lot of times when I go into the shelters, my first and foremost thing is to just represent something that they don't necessarily see on a daily basis, and then to relate to them on my upbringing and how I relate to them on that level, and then also to show them what they can achieve despite their circumstance. So that's how I contribute. Now, the other way that I contribute is by changing my family's trajectory. So by being an entrepreneur, you're creating something that other people can benefit from in the future, even if it is just the name and the brand. It's something that has weight, it carries power. So I feel like that's another way that I contribute. And in the future, I hope to create jobs and give people opportunities that I didn't have. So I feel like there are multiple ways as creatives, as women in fashion, to be that representation. The other part is because I am a model and a natural hair model, I do a lot of times when I go to set, I'm the only Black model selected. So that's another way that I'm pushing forward representation, kind of like Michelle Obama. I mean, not to compare myself to Michelle Obama, but we love her.
I'm sure she would appreciate
right.
it.
But in that same way of that same vein of seeing something that looks like you. Perfect example. I went to set one time and I had my hair curly, and the designer was a Black designer, and her daughter was on set. And her daughter looked up at me, she was like, I love your hair. And that for me was just like, oh my gosh, like that impact, seeing someone that young, being able to see themselves in me, that's huge.
Well, I feel like the conversation in fashion is always focused on appropriation, and well, that's a totally separate conversation in and of itself, but diversity, always seeing more diversity on the runways and in ad campaigns, but we never say why that's important. Like, why, as a woman of color, if you could tap into your younger self, why is it so important for us to see ourselves reflected in the spaces in which we occupy?
Oh, that is a great question. Like I said, growing up, I loved fashion. A lot of times, my mom, when she bought me dolls, it was conscious to buy me brown dolls. But brown dolls didn't have kinky curly hair. Brown dolls had straight hair. Maybe that's why I cut their hair subconsciously now that I think about it. But I wanted to create things that look more like me and that reflected me and reflected my uniqueness. So I think that representation on all, you know, platforms is important, and then that translates to generations. So, for example, people who look up to Michelle Obama or Barack Obama, they're seeing something to aspire to. So if you see someone on the runway wearing a beautiful gown, you aspire to say, I want that gown. So you have to be able to see it in order for you to feel like you can achieve it as well.
It's so funny. I feel like everybody has this different definition of like what it means to be woke now. But for me, it was like growing up in the 90s and watching so much television, arguably too much television. The jury's still out. But I just kind of naturally accepted that when I would get my YM magazine, I'm aging myself and I don't care. When I would get my YM magazines, just accepting that the hair advice was not going to be directed towards me, or that the advice about like skincare or makeup wasn't going to be directed towards me, because I think that as Black people, we kind of, if we want to speak in general terms, we are kind of conservative because of the role religion has played in our survival in this country. With that being said, I accepted so many things not knowing that it was a thing, not knowing that I watched Seinfeld all the time and there were never any Black people. There were never any Black people on Friends, and I just have always wondered what difference it might have made to grow up and to see, you know, someone who looked like me in those spaces, or, you know, just to feel that sense of inclusion. I feel like it would have been really cool. And now we're in a place where we're starting to see it more. So for you as a model, what are you seeing in the areas of progress towards that goal?
Oh, I see great progress. Not at all where we should be, need to be, but I do think I'm a new model, but I've seen a lot of castings come in for women with curly hair, women with natural hair, and I go to my castings. I book 90% of my castings with curly hair. The time that I went to castings with straight hair, I wasn't booking anything. So it shows that either I look better with curly hair, which that's probably true, or they're looking more specific for women of color with curly hair. So I do see progress on my side. There's still strides that we have to make in the beauty industry as a whole, fashion industry as a whole, but I think that the steps are being made, and I think it's an individual preference. So if you are not a natural, you know, woman of color, that's okay too.
Right, because I feel so brand new when I get fresh chemicals. I just got some last night and I felt great about it.
Right. So I feel like we don't want to alienate, because you're not a natural woman of color, then you don't represent all women. It's like, no, that's not what we're saying. You have to give diversity even within that.
Right.
And just because you're not natural doesn't mean you're not woke. It doesn't mean any of that. So I just think you just have to present yourself in a way that is authentic to you.
Right. I would like to see us stop policing each other's Blackness to say that you aren't as Black as me, because I would love to see that stop being a thing, because we're not a monolith.
Right.
And I think that if there was, like you said, diversity within the diversity, people could understand, because I have come to realize in a very scary way that I am the only Black person that a lot of the white people I interact with know. And you feel this weird, almost kind of guilt to be that representative. But I also don't ever want someone to think that I speak for all Black women, because I can't possibly. We're not all the same. And that kind of, it's like a beautiful burden to have in some sort of way. So you mentioned that at one point in your career, or that a part of your career is styling. With our very image-centric, consumer-centric society, how do you feel about labels? Designer labels and all that jazz?
I feel like it's good to mix and match. I'm a mix and match type of person. but I also don't believe in breaking the bank in order to achieve a look. You could I'm always the look for less, but don't look like less. Like,
Ooh, I like it.
you want to have a look for less, but you don't want to look like less. And I think because growing up, you know, I always say, like, you know, the youngest of 5, you don't have, you know, a lot of resources, but that's okay. I think that actually shaped the reason why I'm able to look like $1 million and only spend 10. So it's a great, you know, a great thing that I've been able to achieve great looks without breaking the bank. So I think that's something that a lot of people think, you know, I have to spend, you know, I have to get these expensive shoes in order for it to look like a great outfit. And I'll tell you, sometimes I have on an outfit and it's under $100, and I'll probably look better than the person who spent $1,000 on the whole look. Because a lot of people just go into the store, they see the way that the mannequins are styled, they just take the whole look and they walk out the store. A part of fashion and part of style is how you acquire the look. So how the look kind of, you don't want to wear the look or have the look wear you want to feel comfortable. So for example, you know when magazines do a split screen with one celebrity and another celebrity with the same exact look, and you'll say, why is it that, you know, this person looks way better than that person? It's not that, you know, they have the wrong shoes, it's how they felt wearing it, so they'll exude confidence. So I think you don't have to break the bank to look great.
I love it. That's what we're all about at Not Carrie Bradshaw, because we are not Carrie Bradshaw, because that wasn't even fiction, it was fantasy. Right. So Malia, thank you so much for being our first guest.
Thank you for having me.
You gave us great things to think about. Do you have anything you want to plug? Anything you want to let our audience know?
Oh, absolutely. So you can follow me on social media at The Model Malia, and I'm also a jewelry designer. You can follow my jewelry page at Made by Malia and madebymalia.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty, bye guys.